Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today for our third skill discussion, we're going to talk about Void Cleave. Now, this skill to me is just rocking it. It's one of those skills that looks like it can do massive damage. A lot of more modifiers, a lot of crit chance, a lot of extra flat damage, a lot of ways to get more damage, triple your damage, all sorts of things. It has synergies with minions, it has synergies with other skills. You can play it as fire, you can play it as void. A lot of cool things going on with this skill, and all of that I think is possible because it is gated behind a 4-second cooldown, which means that while it has a cooldown, it's going to hit really hard when you use it. So let's go ahead and go into some of these notes and why I'm liking how much damage I think that it will be able to do. I haven't actually used it in game, so I don't know how good it is, but just looking at these notes, I am very excited once I get to try it out. We've got Rift Flame. We're going to go to the top left, which is meant for more minions. We have Void Cleave hits ignite enemies. It gains the fire tag, and this will have up to 300% ignite chance, which means you can do 3 stacks on a single hit. We have 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿. Void Cleave's base void damage is converted to fire. Additionally, your next non-channeled fire attack or spell after Void Cleave will deal up to 30% more damage, and Void Resistance Shred from all sources is converted to Fire Resistance Shred. We have Blazing Steel. Physical damage increases fire damage. Why this is important: if you're using another skill and your build was based around doing a physical version of something, you can now have all of that physical damage that you've been stacking for that apply to your Void Cleave. So even if Void Cleave as a void skill or as a fire skill didn't synergize with the build you were doing, now you can convert that so your physical damage will affect both skills and therefore make them both good. So that really allows you to play a hybrid build between elements and work together for a good synergy. We have Molten Blades. When you use Void Cleave and hit at least one enemy, your minions gain a stack of Molten Infusion for 4 seconds, granting them additional melee fire damage and a chance to ignite enemies. You can get up to 5 stacks of this. Each stack will give you 15 flat fire damage and 30% ignite. At your full 5 stacks, you'd have 150% ignite chance, and you would have 75 added fire damage to all your minions, which is crazy. Remember, there is a cooldown on this skill, so it's not like you can stack 5 stacks per hit and get like 2 hits a second and stack a whole bunch. It doesn't work that good because of the cooldown, but if you get cooldown reduction, you could get some overlap going. And then with Scorching Path, it makes it to where Molten Infusion, you must hit your minions directly, not an enemy to buff them, but the Molten Infusion effect is increased by 150%, which is massive. So maybe if you're only playing with like your forged or your manifest weapon and you're running around with him, this might be a way to go because you already hit him, with like shield throw to make him spin. Maybe you want to hit him with a Void Cleave every 4 seconds to really buff him up. Then we've got Abyssal Walker. You travel further with Void Cleave and it deals more damage multiplicative with the things. You get increased travel distance and increased damage, or more damage. Momentum. After channeling Warpath for at least 2 seconds, your next Void Cleave within 1 second deals more damage. So you can do up to 80% more damage with Void Cleave if you've been channeling Warpath for at least 2 seconds. So what's really cool about this is if you seeing the warpath changes is while warpathing you could hit a skill and it will use it while you're warpathing, but it will stop warpath, and then if you're holding down warpath you will immediately go back into warpathing, but it's a much smoother transition. So Void Cleave is obviously taking advantage of that, where you can be warpathing along, just hit the Void Cleave button while still hitting the warpath button and just leash out a Void Cleave real quick and then go straight back into warpathing. It should feel really good. It'll definitely be a playstyle that we definitely give a try. Then we've got Into the Depths. Void Cleave deals more damage and in a larger area, another more damage modifier. We have Precognition, improves Void Cleave's base critical strike chance and it cannot be dodged. Very powerful. We have Deadly Omen. Void Cleave deals more melee damage to enemies on high health, another more modifier. We have Rift Maker, which can apply critical vulnerability, which is cool. We finally got that somewhere else than the road, and it increases your crit chance. Champion of the Void. You get up to 200% critical strike multiplier, which is a ton, and you can gain up to 4 mana on a crit with Void Cleave. Now I don't know if that's per critical strike you do, or if it's just if you crit with it that you get it. I think it's going to be per crit, so if you round up a bunch of enemies, you could get a bunch of mana back. We'll have to test that. And then we have Obliterator, which if Void Cleave hits at least one enemy, your next erasing strike is always a critical strike. And that doesn't have a time limit, so I assume that as long as you didn't use Void Cleave again and miss, that you would be able to wait 10, 20, 30 seconds and then time your erasing strike and have a critical strike with it. Crushing Echo, this is a very powerful node. Void Cleave deals additional melee void damage. The effect is tripled for Echo Void Cleaves, so you can get up to 75 added void damage, which is tripled for an Echo, which is crazy. That means that if you do this, you get 75 added void damage from just this node, and then if it echoes, that Echo will have an additional 225 void damage. That's crazy. That is a hard-hitting skill, so super excited to test that one out. Then we have Ruining Sweep. Void Cleave hits slow enemies, have increased stun chance, and increased stun duration. Not super excited about that one, but we might give it a try. Abolisher. Void Cleave deals significantly more melee void damage to enemies on low health. And you can do up to 150% more damage to enemies that are below 35% health. Basically, what this is setting you up for is if you're in a boss fight, you're going to really take the end of that boss down quick. On the right side, we have Dark Pathway. It increases the cooldown recovery. You can get 30% cooldown recovery here, which would reduce you down to roughly 3 seconds. We have Vorpal Force, which gives you more melee damage per bleed up to a maximum. You can get up to 120% more damage, so another more modifier. You can tell this is one of those skills where extra levels to the skill, whether you get +2, +3, or +4 on an exalted item, or get plus void skills somewhere else. This is one of those skills that's really going to benefit from that affix. We have Armor Sunderer. Void Cleave hits shred armor. You can get armor shred stacks, armor shred effect, and armor shred duration. Very powerful node. Neither charge. You get an additional charge of it, but it costs more mana. What this will allow you to do is you'll be able to do it twice at once, which would be really good if you're really trying to spam some damage and you're going in between fights. And then you could get, if you're playing that with minions, you could get a ton of the Molten Infusion stacks. We have Void Fused Projectiles. If Void Cleave hits at least one enemy, your next throwing attack deals void damage. Now this is huge. You can do 100 void damage added to your next throwing attack. That is a crazy amount of void damage to add to a throwing attack. We have Dismantling Throws. If Void Cleave hits at least one enemy, your next throwing attack inflicts enemies with Time Rot, 1 stack per point you put in. Atropic Blows. Void Cleave deals more melee damage per stack of Time Rot on the target. Another more damage modifier. There are just tons of them in this tree. We've got Warped Decay. Void Cleave hits inflict enemies with Time Rot, so you can get Time Rot on hit. We have Ravager. When you use Void Cleave, you gain Ravaging Aura for a short duration, scaling with the amount of enemies hit up to 10. It has a maximum duration of 10 seconds. We have Annulling Presence. Ravaging Aura deals additional spell void damage and has more area of effect. The Aura spell you can add +10 all the way up to +50 and get up to 100% increased area. Going to be playing around with this just to see how damaging it is. And then we've got Endless Hunger. Ravaging Aura leeches a portion of damage it deals as health up to 15%, which is pretty huge now, especially since Leech took a pretty big hit. Overall, this skill tree, as you can see, has very, very powerful nodes inside of it. Not just one or two. It's got them in all directions. So this will be a very fun skill. I think there's going to be at least 4 or 5 different very powerful Void Knight builds that are based around having this in it, which is going to be really cool. So that's going to be it for this skill discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me your thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you've already found a good way to use it or if you're enjoying using it, let me know. As always, stay safe and have a good day.